tuned in to what's going on with Manifest Audio lately, you'll probably be aware of the fact that we recently, well, yesterday actually, just launched a new bundle of MIDI tools, a new MIDI tool set. And, I took a different approach with the deep dive video on those this time, figuring that we could get a little bit more of a personal, hands-on deep dive approach in the live stream here. And so that's what I'm going to try to do today, is to look at using these MIDI tools in practice in this techno context. So, again, it's a bit arbitrary, the genre choice, but I try to have a bit of a genre theme each time I do one of these, just so we have a bit of a direction to go in. I've got 133.33 BPM, which is, if anybody's familiar with old Locked Groove records on a 12-inch, if you cut a single groove at 133.33 BPM, you can create a circle instead of a spiral that will loop perfectly. And so that was a very common tempo for lots of classic techno. I figured that'd be a fun callback today. I've just got it in C minor, and I've done a little bit of homework. I had time today, not dealing with plumbing issues like the last live stream, thankfully. So I've got a bit of a drum kit populated here, and a little operator for the bass, wavetable for the pads, drift leads, drift chords, and we're gonna look at just exploring the potential of these MIDI tools together or individually in context. But I see a few people tuning in. Maybe just say a quick hi in the chat. Say what's up. Let me know who's there. Andrew, nice. Welcome. So I've gone ahead and created a very basic techno pattern here to work around. Y'all didn't need to see me create this kick maraca thing. This is actually just the 808 maraca, and I like to tune it way down and put a little low pass on there, make it all dusty sounding. And I layered the kick a little bit with a couple other elements. And Hexaline is in there by default. We're going to look at a bunch of these, but Klaus, willkommen. We're going to look at Hexaline to start. I think it's such a perfect techno tool. So Hexaline is kind of an evolution in some ways. You can think of it as an evolution of the Converser, because what it does similarly is generates a phrase in which up to 6 voices don't interrupt each other, rather than the just call and response between 2 that we find in Converser. And so this is useful for all kinds of linear drumming, as I pause the drum clip there. Don't need that much momentum just yet. But so we can use it for linear drumming, but it's also great for these really hypnotic sort of MIDI patterns. And basically, if you were drumming, you would leave this chromatic and pre-select your notes. But I'm going to make a bass line with this. So I'm going to go ahead and enable the scale awareness. And as soon as I've done that, it's populated the clip with these 6 notes corresponding to the 6 lines. And let's just take a listen to what it's done here. So these are just the default notes, which are in C2 octave. It's a little high, so I could address this a couple ways. I could just drop the operator bass down an octave, and look at that, it's bassline magic. We're ready for the club. It's time. Okay, so not quite, but you see what I'm saying. This is it's a very powerful tool. So since I left the note grid editor, that means it's looking at a new apply cycle. So now if I want to create a new clip and not add notes on top of that one, I gotta create a new clip here. That's kind of the idea. I want to create a bunch of iterations using the Hexaline just to get different sort of bass lines rolling here. And the second one, I'm going to drop the global note length. They're all down at 0.75. So that's going to give a nice staccato feel on this second one. And I imagine you can feel that. It's a little more pushing, but it works for techno. This kind of stuff really works for techno so well. So So another thing that we can do here, I exited the apply cycle, so I wanted to keep messing with it. Here we go. So the important thing is the note stays selected here, because what I want to show is how it works to sort of mute these different lanes. And so in rest mode, it just deactivates these notes. But if I flip it into fill mode and I deactivate one of these note lines, it creates a completely new pattern out of the 5 notes in which every step of the pattern is filled. So that's the difference between the fill and the rest mode. Okay, this is actually working quite nicely. I'm going to create a couple more of these because I'm just having so much fun. Let's try doing a longer phrase here. And it just had that first bar selected, so I'm going to drop the play probability on that higher C note. And you know, I could move these around to different note pitches and it's going to stay in the scale and key, of course. So we can adjust, of course, the lengths of all of these on a per note basis. So maybe I want the C2 a bit longer to try and impose some legato glides. I can do that just on the low Hexaline. The 6th one happens to be the lowest. Okay, I don't know about that probability thing. It's kind of... And then, you know, just a general principle when using these tools, are very powerful, these generative tools, but they're not meant to be the kind of thing where you just generate something with it and that's it, that's the end of the story. No, this is meant to give you a starting point, right? So the way that I like to work with these is say, okay, this is like 90% of the way there, but what if I drop this note down and just make some of these a little less repetitive? Okay, so we're getting into some fun techno bassline territory. There's some other things I want to explore with the Hexaline here. I think let's just try doing, for example, a smaller loop, because one thing that defines a lot of techno stylistically is a 2/4 pulse. So a shorter, like half bar pulse driving a lot of the rhythm. So let's try that. And instantly, that's so techno, right? I mean, let's try some different versions. I'm not so sold on this one, but just by sheer fact of the shorter repetition, it gets technified. Mick over Mick. Okay, that's definitely getting into hypnotic territory. So another thing that can be nice, it's not mandatory, but nice with some techno, is to prevent some of the bass and kick from overlapping. So I might consider taking that one out, but that's removing a little too much of the character. I like that low, longer note. It's kind of working. It's techno. It's happening. It's right here. It's done almost. Okay, let's keep playing around with some of these, and we're gonna settle on the best ones. The whole beauty of being able to rapidly generate, rapidly iterate these ideas is you don't have to feel stuck on your first one, because you know what? There's another one waiting to be unveiled just a click away. Pretty similar, right? Pretty similar feel. The double top note. Okay, let's try one more. Then I want to show another approach we can take with the Hexaline to generate some really interesting patterns. Okay, let's get another half bar techno-fied situation going on here. There we go. And again, this is a very simple sine wave operator. I'll just add some FM for emphasis here. Okay, I'm going to try not to get carried away here, but we're in Techno Town, so, you know, it's hard not to. It's hard not to get carried away sometimes. Yeah, I'm just going to have to go ahead and rename that one Techno Town, I think. Yeah, we're already rolling here. Okay, so I said I was going to show another approach here, which is that, okay, let's keep with the one bar thing, and it's just randomly generating patterns using this luck algorithm, a very basic random algorithm. We could try this other slightly more tuned random algorithm called Fluid. That's kind of working for me too, to be honest. Whoops, daisy. Amazing. But what I really want to show are these other three modes that I think are quite unique. So what we can do is say to cycle through the 6, or let's actually mute one, so we just get it down to like 5 of these. And let's set it to loop forward through them. And because the second step is higher than the first line, it goes up and then down. If I reverse them, right, then we would see this pattern where it's going down in this cycle. And so this allows us to program these cyclical patterns. And then within that, we've got this number in these 3 forward, reverse, and elliptical modes that allows us to, to hold, in other words, repeat the final note of the pattern. And because this is in rest mode, we got to rest where that D2 would be. If I enable it, we'll see it just appear. And so this is kind of a 2/4 pattern, right? It's 8/16 notes. Just another way to arrive at interesting patterns that I would not have come up with otherwise. That's, yeah, that's something. Get a little portamento glide on there. Get bleepy with it. Option drag that over here, maybe. Okay. That's maybe doing a little too much, but you get the picture, right? There's all kinds of ways with this Hexaline to arrive at some interesting stuff. And so further to that, let's try using it also on some percussion. So I've just gone to this core kit, and we can set these to any note we want. And I just realized now those percussions are kind of loud, so I'm just gonna do one last little bit of housekeeping I neglected to handle before and just drop all those down a bit. Yeah, so what was I saying? Right, so we can just slide these up and down anywhere we want. In this case, it's percussion, so I'd rather it not be scale aware. I prefer to have access to the full chromatic thing. Will this be a correct approach, asked Andrew G. Playing with the sequencers, recording MIDI, after that applying the MIDI tools, so maybe using the transformations, instead of starting directly with the MIDI tools. It's a perfectly fine approach. I don't know if the word correct really applies. It implies there's maybe a wrong approach, which I'm not sure I agree with. That sounds like an excellent approach, definitely worth exploring with, Andrew. I don't think we'll get into that technique today, but you're giving me ideas and I like it. Okay, so I'm not really feeling that cowbell situation. So which is that? There we go. So now we've got this linear percussion pattern. Linear means only one drum plays at a time. Only one of these percussions plays at any given time. And we've got our 6 notes selected. Maybe I don't like all of them. Maybe I want to play around with some of them a little bit more. I think really the clave is what's causing the damage here. Which one is the clave? Is the D sharp too? No, that was the cowbell that was angering me earlier. Must be. So what's the lowest note now? D sharp 2. There we go. Okay, and this is in the reverse mode. So let's just go and try our hand with a little luck. And let's get all of these at 0.9. And let's give it some deviation. So the velocity will be a little different over time, get a little more lively. But I think for the hypnotic techno, actually maybe this forward or back thing is working. And what we could do then is just grab one of these. And then I'm going to show you one of my favorite little techno tricks with the open hat that is of course required. Right, so there's our open 909 hi-hat, and excuse me, sir. There we go. I'm just going to option drag those over and drop them down quite a bit in velocity, and then let's also give them a little variance. Command Shift drag down, option drag those back over to here. And then these last ones we'll bring down a bit. Those percussions are sounding kind of goofy to me, but we'll deal with that later. I think it's mostly that woodblock one. Let's see if we can just go ahead and there we go. Okay, and then of course what we do to further explore that open hi-hat is just play around with that decay. As needed to give our techno a little more techno, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's go and just manually, actually no, let's not manually do anything. Let's use another MIDI tool. What am I talking about here? Okay, let's get a little rim shot pattern going with the all new Percotope. And apologies if you see some unreleased stuff in my MIDI tools folder. Yeah, I think I want this on C#1. And so by default, quantization is off because that's kind of the unique proposition. It's going to randomly distribute these 8 beats anywhere in that selected 1 bar span. But I think a little quantization might actually help us here. And we can use this nudge pattern to slide them over. I'll bring their chance down, deviation up. It's kind of working. Maybe a little busy, but then I think we need a big snare. Okay, that could work. I don't know about the snare stuff for now. Let's come back to that. And then, yeah, maybe we could explore quickly. I did leave like 808 hi-hats in place, which could be good to explore the new Euclidean modes offered by the updated Converser. If you have Converser already, this is a free update. Otherwise, it's in there with the MIDI tool set 2, and so now I need to find. Okay, there's the. Oh, I need to turn off the scale awareness again because it's percussion. And okay, cool. So let's go ahead and get rid of those. Just make sure the whole bar is selected. And let's fill 7 steps. And the other voice, so currently I'm working on side 1, which is the left, so the A sharp, the closed hat. 7 of those will be filled at a 75% density. And the open hat will just jump right in to fill the gaps left by it in a Euclidean fashion. And we can rotate these around, move the pattern forward or backward, change the direction, all that good stuff. But I think I want I want more of the closed hats than the open hats. And then going to the open hats, I'll just drop there. Yeah, see, these are, oh right, I'm mixed up. So closed are on side 2, open are on side 1. That's what's doing my head in right now. Okay, so just reduce the chance on those opens. Okay, well, I think it's techno. I think it might be techno. Okay, let's see if we can find a way to add some nice Detroit chord stabs. And I want to do this with the Navigator. And yeah, let's try it with a full bar for now. And so the Navigator is this new tool to sort of, I call it explore pattern space, just by moving this puck around. So the horizontal axis makes it less dense on the left. You can see there's less notes, or more dense on the right. And then if you move it down, it narrows the selected range of pitch and velocity. And I'd be curious for input. I tend to actually prefer, it's kind of like an inbuilt compression when you think about it. I tend to prefer the lower notes closer to C1 to be higher velocity than the high notes, which I think should be a little quieter, a little more gentle. Anyway, let's hear how those are sounding. It's gonna be too busy. I know that right off the bat. But oh, I said we were gonna do chords, didn't I? Well, we can very easily just add a second voice here in this top pitch parameter. And there we go. So now we got 3 voice chords. It's actually way too dense, I can tell. See, this is looking like something more like what I'm going for, but I think it's going to be a little too low. Anyway, let's see how this is going. Hello, Ned. We've got a celebrity tuning in. This is great. So yeah, just working with this Navigator here to try and come up with a little Detroit techno chord pattern. A little too busy, and I might revert to our techno-fied 2/4 half bar loop. That's kind of working actually, or a version of it could work. And this is where, again, I revert to that principle of, like, you know, the MIDI tool is not meant to get you across the finish line alone. It's meant to give you a starting point. So now, you know, maybe I'm going to go and take this one and pitch it up. And maybe move it. Yeah, I think we're getting closer to Detroit here, folks, and that's a good thing in my books. Well, that sounds awful, but maybe a little modulation will help. Okay, try not to get too carried away here. Now, one of the things that can be really good to add sort of an extended melodic pattern, I did advertise melodic techno in the title here, is to use that Navigator on a longer pattern. But I see Typewriter is preloaded here, so maybe we should just start with that before we look at those longer Navigator gestures. And this is a very funny way to come up with new ideas. So basically, I'll just type some words in here and hit enter, and it's basically going to parse the ASCII values of all of the letters into a pattern, applying spaces to the or rests to the space symbols, or I can remove them here. But yeah, let's keep the spaces there. I think that'll be a little more interesting. So I'm going to change the range of this. And so a lot of the lowercase number or letters are quite similar to each other in ASCII value. So it doesn't always give the most useful result. But if I type in some capital letters, you'll see something different happens. And it's trying to parse these all through a mono synth, so it sounds awful. Let me just try and get that going again. So, you know, the idea is we can type whatever we want. And use that just as a way to arrive at new ideas. And those values extracted from the typed letters will be spread across these different ranges of pitch, velocity, length, etc. So I think okay, this is getting way too busy. I'm just going to pause the chords for a second. It's giving some Detroit bleep energy. I'm not really feeling this, to be honest. I think we were doing fine before I started trying to force it with the Typewriter. So let's go back to my original idea flow, which was to stick more with the Navigator for now. Typewriter is really fun. I encourage you to play around with it, but I suppose you could say it's a bit hit or miss. So the idea I was going for with the Navigator here, what I was beginning to describe, is, you know, take a longer length, not 43 bars, maybe about 4 bars, I think seems appropriate. And then, yeah, I don't think I want them to be quite that low. We're going more for a lead thing. And I want a fair bit of variety in the note range, so horizontally. But, yes, I've been known to do mad things. Ned, it's true, I can't lie. Okay, so what am I dealing with here? Right, so I need to press play on this clip. But what I'm doing is trying to create a 4-bar melody that's not overly dense. Like if I go all the way right, it's going to be way too busy. I do not want that. So I'm going to keep it on the left side of the spectrum here. But I want a fair bit of variety in the notes, which is why I've got the puck a little higher. So let's just listen to a few iterations of that. still too busy. I want very few notes here. And this sound needs a lot of work to okay, so again, this is a valid starting point. I don't think it's where I want to end up, but let's just duplicate this so we can always revert. Just a little OCD force of habit, and I think I just want to move some of these around, get them on some sort of funkier, more syncopated I think it's just getting a little too busy at the end of the phrase. And I don't want this note either. Just, yeah, I think we can, that last note isn't quite sitting right for me. There we go. What the heck? Okay, hang on a second. And maybe try a little portamento, something there. It's probably going to be obnoxious, but nah, worth a shot. Okay, so now I really like the chords. Actually, they're working for me, but I want to explore one of the new MIDI transformation tools I created. And so to really make use of it, I want to actually duplicate this nice chord loop quite a few times. I think 8 bars is sufficient. And so it should sound essentially like what we already have, just giving myself a longer runway. And I want to grab the transcoder. Okay. And so now with transcoder selected, I'm going to flip to the grid entry mode. And the grid looks super tiny because I've got a very long selection of notes here. I wonder, I think actually if I set it to quarter notes, there we go, the grid's a little more open. It doesn't really matter so much. The point is that I want to create a gesture transposing these notes. Okay, that could work. So now I've got this thing going as well where I've got the vertical grid points with these sort of arbitrary 5 lines. So it's only going to go, I guess, in this range. So each of those will be an octave. So I could set this to a finer grid interval on the vertical axis and get some maybe more interesting transpositions as I impose some curvature on the function here. I think I know why it's ending a little sooner, which is that I changed the grid size in the note editor after I selected the MIDI tool. That's interesting. But so anyway, I kind of like what it's doing anyway. Now that it's there, now that I've imposed this shape, I can adjust the transposition ranges in real time until I arrive at something that's a little more interesting. Now, I think that's maybe getting a little bit too musical for the sort of hypnotic vibe I was going for here. So I'll just rename that extra gestural. Okay, go back here to the main chords. Okay, so here's a fun one. All right, so we have our leads, right? This is the main leads. And I'm just going to delete these unused notes. And one thing that I found useful is to take those leads, right? I'm going to select all those notes, and I'm going to use the Chronoflex, which is like, you know, we have the clip warp markers, but you know, they don't stay quantized, or the notes don't stay quantized to the grid. So instead, I created this situation where we can start the end and invert the start and end point of everything here, and I'm just going to smash them all together so they occupy one little section here, and we're going to loop it. That's going to be our nice little wavetable pad sound generated from whatever notes are in that lead pattern. Let's take a listen. So we've got a chord built from the leads. Interesting. I think maybe some of these notes are a little high. There we go. And I've got a little modulation on the detune and everything. Just notice the chords and the open hat are really going along together. All right. What's next here? I think maybe it could be good to try something else with the converser, or maybe another Hexaline part here. Let's go and grab a collision, little reference to Millsy, little Jeff Mills bells situation here. There we go. And what did I say we're going to do? Right, a little bit of converser. Okay. I think actually I want that up an octave. Maybe both of these should be up another octave. I don't want to fuss around too much with the sound design on Collision right now, but I am partial to the marimba. Give it a little room reverb there. I think it's a little too bright. So instantly we just got this little call and response situation here, and then we can use our Intershifter. So this transposition interval device, I don't want to, well, let's do two versions actually. Let's do one where we experiment with Intershifter on the whole resulting MIDI pattern here, and this is just going to give it a bit of a narrative over time. So it's every 8 notes randomizing the transposition. So it's not randomizing every single note individually, it's randomizing chunks of notes, right? Okay, I'm gonna keep that original one. And then in this other version, what I wanna do is, this is 3 notes, so I'm gonna say every 3 notes, transpose, and I don't want you to go down that low. Okay, it's very quiet, I'm noticing here, which is probably good because it can get quite loud. But let's just go for this classic marimba. Okay, that's going to need some work, but it's letting us hear what I was getting at. So it can be quite nice. This is like a little trick with a converser that I have, which is to leave the lower converser note intact and have the response kind of transposing around in such a way. In this case, Intershifter is saying every 3 of the selected notes, I only selected the higher ones, randomized within this range. And now, like, yeah, I think like that one might be a little too high. A lot of these are kind of repetitive, the word I can't repeat right now. So I think, in fact, it might be good to just take these two. And again, some of you might be familiar. I've got this little handy dandy trick I like to do on my returns with the steep high pass, preventing the lower marimbas from reaching it. Maybe I'll drop them down another octave too. No, I'd rather not. Okay, I'm not sold on the marimba sound, but we'll fix that in the mix. Let's see, what else is going on here? Oh, we could play with some swing. So let's see, I like to do something like this. Let's just take our wood block sample here. Yes. And what I'm going to do is go to my swinger device. Having some trouble with the selection tools today. This is one of our first MIDI tools, and we can create a random swing, so there's a chance that notes will be swung, and we can have on the notes that are swung a variance of how swung they are. Okay. So why would I want such a thing? Okay, let's just bring the chance down a bit. You can see some of the otherwise normally swung notes are no longer swung. But what I'm trying to do is to create a custom swing where some of the notes are swung more than others, right? And now from that clip, I'm just going to extract that groove. And now I can delete this and go to, I guess I have to set it as the main one. I don't know if that really matters. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we can hear that custom groove I just created getting applied to everything. So I just selected that as the groove here, and it's a completely custom groove with different amounts of swing on each note. I don't know. Some people might not be so impressed, but I'm easily entertained, I suppose. I don't know. It's giving it a little bit more of that classic Detroit feel, and it's just, you can feel the swing, but it's got this extra juice to it because it's not a perfectly mechanical swing. There's like some variation in there. I don't know, it does funny things to my brain. So we got our pads. Let's revisit perhaps some of these other operator bass things we got here. Okay, just to really be able to hear it better, I'm going to disable. Okay. Element, welcome, welcome. Okay, so that's kind of working. That's the real staccato one, but I don't... There's a good example of how we can get those staccato patterns, but it's a little too pushy. I wonder if we could just take the second half of this one. There we go. Now we could make this, you know, making one techno track with 5 bass lines, or we could take each of these bass lines and make a different techno track. I think we'll try to focus it into the one jam here. Okay. That's really pushing the techno energy. I'm going to call it pusher 1. And then, of course, little FM on there, never hurt anybody. Okay, that one's kind of nice to like revert. So I think I might explore some follow actions with some of these for the final arrangement we're going to jam out here. And that's the main one we were working with, right? Ooh. So, you know, techno has come to mean many different things to many different people, but in my heart of hearts, it will always refer to the soulful, bass-line-driven, sci-fi, futuristic jams that came out of Detroit and inspired by Detroit. Not to espouse any particular dogma here, but the more industrial strains, while I understand they have their merits, are just not quite for me. I'm going to delete that top one. Okay. So let's go. I'm going to try and do a little follow action thing here with these three. And I'm going to say both of these will play the last clip in the group after playing, see, they're a half bar each. I don't want to do that math right now. Let's just say after either one of these plays for 12 bars, then it'll play the last one. This last one will then play for 4 bars, right? And then play one of the other 2 clips. Let's see if that really does it here. So it's already chosen the pusher 2. Okay. And that can keep rolling while I play around with adding the chords, maybe. Oh, we're not even seeing what's going on here. Oh, and it did switch to the techno town. Nice. So now we've got this bass line that's going to be kind of modulating, switching back and forth, adding another layer of subtle dynamism to the undertow of the track here. Let's see. So we got our leads. And is the marimba anything? Definitely giving, with the Type 2 filter on the drift, giving that nice resonant chromatic sci-fi sheen. Give it some chorus, maybe. Little too much, I reckon. All right, let's get into the marimba here, see if we can fix it up. Ha! Oh no. What was I thinking? I was going for that bells reference, right? I wonder if a little chord is going to help or just make it worse. Only one way to find out. Could work. Try some strum. Okay. We might just be onto something here. You know, Element, that's a great question. I was working on a tool to do that very thing, and it will be out soon. I had a great name for it and everything too, but the way it was processing the lists of notes from the chords, it kept being one chord behind. So I need to get it working correctly, but let's just say that's on the roadmap. Okay. Now, again, not to espouse or any dogma or start any controversy, but there are varying schools of thought as to whether techno is allowed to have a downbeat emphasis with a hand clap or some such, and I'm of the view that there's no reason it shouldn't. It may or may not be helping, but I don't think it automatically turns it to tech house, as some people seem to think. That said, yeah, I don't know. I'm out on that. But I like the chord on the marimba. That really helped. What happened there? Clap is open hat. So you mean like a clap like on the upbeat is how I would say that, right? So I think what Element might be referring to is a little bit of this type of situation. Yeah, that's rather insistent. I don't know that this track needs quite that level of pick-me-up, but I can see the appeal. Okay. I think, maybe just some really calm, interesting little phaser on the marimba could start to bring it to life. Yeah, let's try that out. It's a little too much, maybe. Nice. I think the marimbas are working now that we've added the chord with that little bit of strum. I wonder if it could be deftly automated at some point. Yeah, I just want to get rid of that other junk. It's time to maybe start arranging this situation, but I just want to make sure, what other tools have I not shown? There's got to be a few here. Oh yeah, we haven't gotten into, let's try the vector on this one. So it's going to take our chord patterns, probably going to get way too musical sounding, but let's just try using the vector on here. LFO is great too, but that's not what I'm trying to select. There we go. And so now we can say every beat go down, and I want it to fold back up. And so now this, it looks kind of similar to what I did with the Metagraph, but it's a very different way of doing it. It's a count-based approach. So I don't want it to go down that low or up that high, and I don't want it to count every single note. I want it to count every third note. Yeah, it's a little too pronounced, but it's fun to explore. You can see what it can do. It's got the same count-based length and velocity modulation. Actually, let's just try it on the main one, on the length. Oh, whoops. Make sure there's nothing on the pitch. Okay, we need to also fold it back so they get shorter and then longer. Maybe that's getting a little too short. And yeah, now we're just fussing with unnecessary stuff, but it can be really cool with percussion to different elements longer or shorter over time. And then, is there anything else I need to try generating before we continue along here? Yeah, you know what? Let's do the Metagraph and the metapulse. The last two I didn't look at. So let's go back to our sci-fi leads. We could get a couple different gestures going there. And so with the Metagraph, right, now we've got that graph-based entry that we looked at briefly with the transcoder, and I can now use this to write a melody in the current grid, and it's way too busy, so I'll bring the density down. Let's just get it nice and sparse. It's still going to adhere to the contour I've input there. And again, we can flexibly change the okay, it's going down a little too low at the end there, maybe. And then we can do fun stuff like this, which is not really helping anyone at the moment. But let's go ahead and, yeah, invert the velocity so they get a little quieter as they go higher up. Let's do the same with the chants, so they get a little less likely to play those higher notes. So we can invert all of these ranges, right? So I could go and say, let's actually make the low notes, the high notes lower. So it basically takes an opposite pattern. And you can invert any of these ranges so that one shape is moving different MIDI parameters in different directions, still according to the shape you've entered. Okay, so I'm not sure about that one. We'll come back to you later. Oh, you know, one other cool thing that this Metagraph offers in a very utilitarian way is like, it's great that we have this note grid, but they only give us triplet grids and the normal, you know, musical intervals to which we're all accustomed. However, what if you did, for example, wish to work with a different grid size, such as, for example, as I switch to manual. So by default, it's inheriting the same grid as the note selection. If in this automatic mode, if I flip to manual, then I can say, hey, let's work with 15th notes. And then you now have a 15th note grid, right? You can see all those notes are slightly off. When would you want to do that? You know, when you want to go off piste a little bit and just see what's out there in the tupleted realms. Let's see how that sounds. It's going to be pretty weird. And it will dynamically adapt them. One thing that's cool I notice is that any even numbered grid size, it's going to plunk a note down on the in the middle of the bar, just like it would on the first beat. Everything in between is a little off. Let's add the density back in. So I don't know if you woke up today thinking, I'm going to learn what 14th note sounds like, but guess what? You've just been subjected to knowledge that you may not have wanted. Okay, that's just a sort of example of the utilitarian stuff you can do, how this just provides a different way of editing notes than the default note grid allows. But going back to some more creative stuff, I want to try one more device, one more MIDI tool with the leads here. See if we can land on a cool lead thing here with the metapulse, and I'm going to go ahead and just, yeah, get a nice long 4-bar thing. And so if you've used our pulse engine, you're going to know every interval it's going to generate a new cluster of pulses at a random division up to 8 is the maximum. And so now we've got all this crazy stuff going on. Just bring that up to a more leadly level. Now, if I want it melodic, I can randomize the bass pitch of each of these, and at a grid of 16th notes, an interval of 4 is going to be 4 16th notes, so it's randomizing the pitch and the division rate every quarter note. And let's just give it some velocity decay so they kind of calm down a little bit, and maybe same on the length. And now we can have all this kind of absolute nonsense going on here, but we can randomize that pitch decay amount on a per cluster basis as well. And if you don't want a pulse every quarter note, well, first of all, let's do it every 6th note, so we get these sort of longer phrase runs, and then I'll just drop the chance that we get these pulses at all to like 50%. So it's a little more sparse now. This is not going to work at all with what I made here, I bet, but let's just... maybe with a different sound. Of course, this is all scale aware and whatnot. You can select different quantization options here. And I'm going to randomize the length. So we could use this to create some ornamental flourishes throughout the track, or, you know, another way to use this, of course, as I just accidentally enter that unwanted MIDI note, is to, you know, more purposely drill down into a specific section of an existing clip and drop one of these just in that little segment there. And it's extending to the 6th note there. Okay, anyway, let's wrap this tune up. We got about 20 minutes to bang out our techno track. I feel the energy, I feel the power. Let's do it. I'm going to try to stay true to my word. And yeah, maybe those could happen at some point. I'm just going to call those weirdlings. And let's go ahead and get this assigned to the clip color. Okay, so if you've watched me do this before, you'll know that, first of all, I just want to give my ears a rest. Hope you all don't mind, perhaps, the incessant pounding of the rhythm is why some people are doing other things with their evening. Understandable, if you ask me, but I just want to kind of organize this down to the clips I think I might actually want to work with. And let's just hear, what was this bass line again? Okay. Marimbas are all of a sudden working once they're quieter. And the phaser kind of pushing them up and down. This bass line's completely fine. there's just like an abundance of riches right now with those Hexaline basses we created. No problem with that. I think the extra gestural was no bueno. We're gonna take that out of the game at this point, making an executive decision. Marimba chords, cool. And then what's the difference between these two clips? Oh, I went ahead and added that extra hand clap. Okay, so one thing I like to do is, you know, take this pattern here in my parent clip and duplicate it and just make a few little changes. Just maybe move that here. Nice. Okay, that works. And let's go ahead and drop a little snare situation here, and I'm going to make it play one of those too. And yeah, okay. That's all well and good. Let's get one more change up here. I don't really want to mess with the kick drum. There are different schools of thought as to kick drum change ups, and I think they can work really well. I'm not so confident about them. I just always second guess myself with those sort of things. Maybe I'm thinking too much. Wouldn't be the first time. Let's go ahead and grab these snares and just duplicate those. So there's going to be a little more snare situation, and I'll add one more there. So now we've got a little bit more liveliness to this drum pattern. And now what I like to do is just progressively deactivate and reactivate all of these percussion bits. And now they're laying in wait to be reactivated. My little percussion sleeper cells. And just have to determine how I intend to start the track. I think, going back to basics, there's so much in here. I think we've done well today here, folks. Let me go ahead and just start with a kick. I'll just call it intro, rename, and now I can duplicate this, right, and start building that out with the different elements. And then, yeah, this next one I think we'll add the maracas in, but adding just one thing in at a time seems so basic. It's a little sad, so I'm going to add a second perk just for good measure. Build one, and I'll just do this a few more times, and then we're about to record. Don't worry. Just a little insight to my process here. Let's get the rest of the percussion going here. Yeah, that works. Full perks. Duplicate that. Command D every time, and then I think it's time for the rim shot and the 909 hats, of course. Whoa, we're missing some of those. I don't like that. What happened to my other lovely 909 hats? Now I need to go and do this type of thing just to turn it back into techno. Okay. There we go. 909 time. Okay, and then yeah, let's bring the 808 hats and the claps in together, and we'll call it full up. I don't love those claps. They need a little doctoring, but I think this is easily done with a little bit of the sound sample selection. And really, more than anything, I just need to just tighten up that decay. Don't understand why they rock the full sustain on these. I'm more of a 2-stage envelope guy when it comes to my percussion. Yeah, I don't know if the claps are necessary at that point, but we can always revert to not having them. And now, last thing here, I'm just going to go ahead and map a few things to MIDI so I can jam around. And I'm going to make you all sit through this recording here. So I mapped it to a macro first so I can restrict the range a bit. I don't want to go up that high. I guess I could do that with a MIDI mapping too. Yeah. Let's go here to the leads, and yeah, I'm just going to start mapping these to my trusty nano control. Whoops, not the track selection, but there we go. And then here we go. Let's see. And that's why it's always good to restrict the ranges one way or another, so I can tell those chords should not be going up anywhere near 20K. Let's just restrict that mapping range from like 123 to 1234. Yeah, that's a little more reasonable. Let's just check the leads quickly. It's kind of working on the leads, and why not give it a little high pass? Okay, techno time. Here we go. I think so. You know how I like to do this basically is make sure arrangement loop brace is deactivated so we don't record over the same arrangement segment over and over, which is pretty useless when you're trying to end up with a full track. And I'm going to set my launch quantization to 8 bars and make sure that start transport with record is off, and just arm it to record. And this is going to be an imperfect take, as they so often are, but it's going to give me a starting point, and I can just kind of kinetically jam my way through all these tasty bits we created. So let's, without further ado, get into it. Little FM on the I'm going to race through it a little quicker than I normally might, just to keep you all from getting bored out of your skulls here. Okay, chords next. I think I should have started those way down. Maybe it's a little early for them, but oh, now I'm just getting lost in the sauce and forgetting to trigger all the other bass lines we have coming up. Yep. I forgot to map the MIDI to the 909 hats. That's okay. I can do it on the fly. I can do basically whatever I want, I think, right? Let's see. Is it going to let me? Of course it will. Of course it will. Nice. Okay, it's time for the Detroit bass line, whatever that means. I can't quite remember. There we go. Okay, now we are cooking with gas, as they say. almost time for, I don't know, pads? Yeah. Pretty subtle in the background there. Yeah, I wish I would have dialed in the hat decay range earlier, but live and learn. Antoine, bienvenue. Okay, it's time to add the chords in without the leads. Oh, and it should have been there that I switched to the pusher bass, but we can fix this all in post, right? That's the beauty of recording to a flexible digital audio workstation. Getting a sufficiently meandering techno jam here. That really worked, but I thought if the leads were going to come back in, it might make sense to have the chords out of the picture. And I don't know if these leads are the kind of thing that I would want to necessarily repeat as a phrase. Maybe it just happened once in a while. And yeah, I think it's time to wrap this puppy up. Just kind of minimalizing itself here quite organically. I would say the arrangement needs a lot of work, but there's some good bones. There's some good, well, not even bones, good meat. I don't know, where am I going with this metaphor? There's some good parts in here is what I'm trying to say. It needs to be rearranged properly, but I can't end a session without recording at least a rough sketch to the arrangement. Or else when I open it up, again, it might be not even that long from now. It might just be 2 weeks from now. If I haven't recorded to the arrangement view like this, I will very often struggle to recall what exactly I was driving at. So for me, it's very important to end every session with doing at least some kind of rough recording. And there's all kinds of stuff to fix in post anytime I do that, and especially on this one, but I think there might be something there. So this is the time where, as we work towards the prize giveaway, which is very exciting, one of you who's still in the chat is going to win a MIDI tool set too. But I would love to take any questions. Any questions anybody might have, anything I went through too quickly or that I didn't get to, or just any general questions at all about making techno or about using MIDI tools or anything at all. I'm just talking continuously because there's like a 2-minute delay before the questions appear in the chat. There's like a buffer as the live stream goes out. So as soon as I see somebody type something, I'll address it immediately, but I'm just talking until then to avoid dead air. Yes, got to get out of the 8-bar loop jail. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with just making music to make music, for the pleasure of making music itself, for the act, for the intrinsic motivation of just musicking without necessarily having to have, you know, a result, a production. I think that's fine. However, if you're the type of producer that does have an intention to wind up with, you know, a finished track that you might share, in that case, then yeah, you have to find a way to escape the 8-bar loop jail, as Antoine so astutely put it. Yeah, any other questions? Any other questions at all? I'm going to queue up a little little lottery action here. Just drop it into my marimba track. Is this a MIDI effect? I can never remember. Yeah, it is, because I can trigger the random number with MIDI. That's right. Okay, so if this is your first time tuning in to one of these manifest sessions, I always like to give something away at the end as a gesture of thanks for sticking with it, for being present, for participating. And how it works is I have this random number generator. It's going to generate a number between... that's too much. Let's do 0 and 1111. So if you want a chance to win the MIDI tool set that I'm giving away, you are going to type a number in the chat. Type a number in the chat between 0 and 1111. And once everyone who wants a chance to win has typed their number in the chat, I will run the random number generator, and whoever has typed in the number closest to what it lands on will win. And I'll get a hold of you to get you the discount code or whatever. Yeah, I don't see any numbers going in the chat, but patiently wait. 951, skewing high there. If it goes, well, could be good. Hammer with the 245. All right, okay, we got B cutting it closer to the middle. I like that. This is good. Andrew with the 559, also very close to the center. That's 4 of, I think there's only a 5th person there, maybe. Let's see if anyone else wants to jump in with the number. I'll give it another 2 minutes for questions. No questions about any of the MIDI tools or anything? I feel like there's more to explore. Not all of the MIDI tools in this latest bundle are like specific to techno. So it's kind of a funny fit to try to shoehorn some of them like Metapulse into a techno thing, because Metapulse is like, it's great for more IDM, kind of crazy note run, weird rhythmic flourishes and stuff. It's not really suited for such straight ahead techno stuff, but just as an example. Yeah, I love that. Let's do that. I will do that, Andrew. We're going to combine Pattern Engine and some of the other sequencers with the MIDI tools. That's a great approach. The next one of these in 2 weeks, give me a little kind of like quasi-holiday theme, like winter-themed ambient world building. We're going to build a generative ambient system together here using some of the manifest tools. But then in the new year, that could be a great topic. I'm going to add that to the list, Andrew. I'm again filling dead air for 1 more minute until I run the generator here. Should I do it via MIDI note or via... I think I'll just click the button. We'll switch it to manual mode so I can just generate it with a click. And yeah, it's been great to see the response to the MIDI tools so far. I hope some of you all are having fun with them. I see now that leaning into the camera looks kind of funny. Sorry for looming over you like that. Almost there. 1 more minute to go. And it's time. So we got Antoine with 951, Hammer with 245, B with 765, and Andrew with 559. Let's go. Oh, 794. I'm no mathematician, but I think B wins in pretty decisive fashion there. I don't think anyone's closer than B, who got within 30. That's pretty awesome. Okay, B, how this works is I need you to do one of two things. Either leave a comment below this video, and I'll try and find you through your YouTube channel, or you can join our Discord. I encourage you all to join our Discord. It's pretty fun, active community. And what I want you to do is join our Discord, which you can find in the lower left corner of our website. You'll see all the social icons. You'll see the Discord one there. So find us in the Discord, and you can just hit me up there directly, and we'll figure it out. I'll get you the code. Awesome. Pretty happy with how this one turned out. Thanks all for tuning in. 3 more minutes for any last questions. But we did it. We got there. We did make some kind of techno track. Hey, Bartek. Awesome. Okay, cool. Yes, I think you know how to get in touch with me then. So let's just do that. Let's listen back to this kind of funny rendition that we came up with as I take any last questions you might have here. Something here. There's something in this track. I think I will probably try to finish it to some degree. I'm just going to get rid of those. Don't want so many of those together. Hey, cheers. Appreciate you too for tuning in, Hammer. Well, those percussions are very cute. I might need to process them a little bit to make them a little less cartoonish. And yeah, that's where the chords, see, so for example, go to my automation here, just go ahead and add that to a new lane. And yeah, I think it's kind of want to just start it filtering in like this. Perhaps, but one of my standbys and one of my faves, not gonna lie. The internet craps out at the final end. At least it was polite enough to wait until the end of the stream.